Hello, hello. What's going on? Welcome to the first ever edition of what I'm calling Talkin Drones with Dave. Um, I have decided that I'm going to try to go live on YouTube and I guess maybe Facebook too, uh, once a week. So I'm picking Thursdays, 4 o'clock. It's going to be pretty casual. I'm welcoming all comments, all chats, if you will. It's a chance to kind of just hang out. But I figured it'd be good not to just randomly ramble on for a full hour. I can do some of that, but it'd be good to have some type of topic to stick to. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about remote ID. What I've found on that, there's a rule coming up in September that everybody's going to have to abide by some remote ID laws. So we're going to dive into what that is, what you need. Do you have to do it? What I know about it so far, I'm not going to pretend to be some super expert on remote ID, but I do know some people who are attorneys. We've done some research internally, so happy to share that. Also, happy if any of you that are watching this know anything else about remote ID that I'm missing, please chime in. So let's dive in a little bit. First off, I'm doing StreamYard, so I get these nice little banners down here. I don't know if you can see them down there. What is this? So if you have no idea who I am, I'm David Young. I'm the founder of Drone Launch Academy. If I take this off, you can see that. Drone Launch Academy started back in 2016. Originally did Part 107 test prep stuff. Got a bunch of different courses now and some community memberships, some other stuff. But I wanted to, every time I do a live, we usually do them as part of like a webinar series or something like that, where we broadcast it to our whole email list and I have guests on. But I wanted to do something where I just get to interact with people because every time I do them, it's really fun chatting with everyone and doing these. So my goal this time right now is to see if I can do this consistently for 4 weeks in a row. So a full month of this before I ever kind of advertise it, if that makes sense. So right now, we have an email list of a bunch of drone pilots, and typically I would send out an email blast like, "Hey, everybody, I'm going to go live, and we're going to talk about this topic, and join me on it." But I'm not. I have kind of a horrible habit of having a good idea, or what I think is a good idea, starting it, getting excited about it at first, and then falling off the bandwagon and not sticking through with it till the end. So we're kind of in the test the water phase. See if I can stick with this. I think we can, but I'm not going to do any promotion of it or any email list send out until I get at least 4 down. So if you are here, shoot me a comment. Let me know where you're at, where you're coming from, and let's get a little bit into some remote ID. Hey, what's up, Brian? Yeah, you do that too. Well, maybe we all do it. It's hard to stick with things. I actually started this service. I don't know if it's any good yet. It's called Commit Action. So what it is it allows, it's like a goal setting accountability service. Because the problem is, as a business owner, I don't have anybody above me to be like, "Hey, David, did you get your work done?" I can't get fired. There's no accountability. So I can hold my employees accountable. I can be like, "Hey guys, here's the projects we need to do. Here's who's doing them. Here's the deadlines." But if there's nobody in reverse order to be like, "Hey, David, did you do that stuff?" So it's called Commit Action Service. They basically meet with you, be like, "All right, hey, what are your goals? Let's break them down into, a 1 year goal, 6 month, and then 1 month goals, and then all the initiatives that like tie to those goals." And then they like text you, they call you, they email you, be like, "How's that going? Did you do this? Do you need help breaking this task down more?" So that's been helpful for me, at least have somebody checking in or some type of accountability on there. But yeah, so we're gonna see if we can stick with this. All right. So that's what this is. I'm gonna name it at some point. I literally just call it Talking Drones with Dave. I don't know what we're gonna call it. If you guys have any good name ideas for this little segment, this 1 hour session on Thursdays, feel free to give me your ideas. I'm wide open. I asked ChatGPT for ideas, and they were all terrible in my opinion. Here's what we had. We had Sky's the Limit, Unmanned and Unplugged, Drone Chats, Flight Club. I thought that was a pretty good one. If you ever seen Fight Club, The Rotor Hour, Hover and Discover. I actually didn't read that one. That's funny. Airtime, Liftoff Live, Prop Talk, Drone Hangout. That was ChatGPT's They had other ones. Sky High Insights, Propel and Propel. I don't get it. Above the Clouds, Unmanned Universe. All these, I'm like, these are dumb. These are cheesy. So if you got any other ones, maybe I'm being overly critical, but if you have any that you like, feel free to let me know. Even if you're watching this afterwards and you're throwing them in the comments, throw them down there and I'll figure it out. I just came up with the crappy name of Talking Drones with Dave. All right. We haven't actually talked about drones yet. Let's get into it. All right. Remote ID. What is remote ID? Now, these aren't meant to be like real big teaching sessions, but I'm just going to kind of share my thoughts and what I know. So, a while ago, I don't remember the exact dates, the FAA proposed, hey, we need some type of way of tracking drones in the airspace, in the sky. If a drone's flying over the Super Bowl, we need to know who's flying the drone or at least where the operator is so that we can appropriately intervene. That's my understanding of it. And so they need some system to be able to track drones. A similar kind of comparison could be ADSB for manned aircraft pilots. If you're familiar with ADSB, no idea what that stands for. I'm a pilot from a while back. I haven't flown a ton with small airplanes, but I know it's basically a transponder that sends out your signal of where your airplane is so that other airplanes and air traffic control can see you and they don't hit you. Pretty good safety thing. I think at the time I'd read in some forums, there was a lot of pilots pushing back on that. They didn't like that. They like to be anonymous and private, and it's American, nobody knows what I'm doing, privacy, which I get and understand privacy. And people don't like to be tracked. Shocker. So when the FAA proposed, hey, let's get a method where we can track everybody, people kind of freaked out. They're like, absolutely not. I don't want to be tracked. People just don't like lack of privacy, right? They don't like other especially government, getting their fingers into what they consider to be their own personal stuff. So remote ID is basically a module that's built into the drone or that you attach to the drone that transmits your drone's location, and I'll get into it in a minute, and it transmits your takeoff point, and it transmits where the controller or the pilot or operator is. And it can be picked up. You can have like a receiver module. It can be picked up by law enforcement. Hypothetically, you would think the FAA, people like that, to track where drones are in the airspace. It really, as I've been thinking about it, I can't think of a ton of benefits to the individual operator other than now their stuff is being potentially looked at. Benefits, I understand, to security, like if, sporting events or other kind of protected large gatherings of people where someone could use a drone for, negative purposes. I can understand that. But even when incorporating it into the full national airspace, if you're thinking about drone deliveries, if you're thinking about all of these drones being able to interact at that kind of sub 500-foot level, because right now all manned aviation traffic is supposed to be 500 feet and above. And actually, only if you're in a sparsely populated area, if you were in like a normal metropolitan area, they're supposed to be 1,000 feet and above to kind of give you some buffer from what's down below. So typically they're like, okay, the FAA has said manned aviation can come down to 500 feet in a lot of instances unless they're taking off or landing. And so we're going to let drone operators go to 400 feet, and that should give a little 100-foot cushion in between. That's kind of the thought process for like kind of those layers. But if we're going to have a bunch of drones operating in that kind of sub 500-foot range in that airspace, you got to figure out a way for to integrate them all. That's what like UTM is, which is, oh gosh, unmanned traffic management. This thing doing it live. UTM drones. Do this together. Yeah, unmanned traffic management, unmanned aircraft system traffic management. So that's to manage all the drones operating together. There's another thing called advanced air mobility, AAM. You might hear that sometimes. Yeah, advanced air mobility, according to NASA, is a safe, automated air transportation system for passenger and cargo in urban and rural areas so like autonomous vehicles and stuff. So that's stuff they're working on. A big thing just came out, like a plan for the future of advanced air mobility. I haven't actually gotten a chance to look at that in depth, but we can do that on another session here. So the whole goal is, how do we safely integrate all these drones into the airspace, and how do we make sure they're not going to hit each other and that people aren't using drones for nefarious purposes. And so it seems like one of the ways they've proposed this is by remote ID. So some people call it, oh, it's just like a license plate for your drone. That's not super accurate, because, for instance, your license plate doesn't actually transmit your data. The license plate for drone argument is more like your FAA registration number. You got to register your drone. You tape the little registration sticker on your drone. That way people have it. So it's not like that, because it actually transmits your location. Here's my personal opinion. If you're operating your drone for normal purposes, if I'm a commercial operator and I'm out doing jobs or I'm flying for my employer, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, if you're not doing anything wrong, you don't have anything to worry about, kind of thing. Like, why would I care that someone could see that there's a drone in the air right there? Like, it doesn't actually transmit anything about you personally. So let's look a little bit to what it actually transmits. See if I can find it here in my notes. Yeah, so it transmits your drone ID or a session ID. It transmits the drone location, the altitude and velocity, the control station location, and the takeoff location. So it doesn't say David Young's flying his, DJI Mavic 3 here. Go get him, right? It just says, hey, there's a drone here, and the operator is standing here, and they took off from this location. That's what it transmits. So it's really not any of your personal data. However, if you could pair that, I think, with some FAA database stuff. So there's some stuff on registering drones. I need to look into this a little bit more. I think you're supposed to register your remote ID serial number with yourself on the FAA's website. So again, I'd have to look at that in a little more detail. I haven't done that personally yet, but that might be coming. So that's what it transmits. I don't think it's a huge deal. You have to start doing this on September 16th, 2023. That's when the rule goes into effect. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Maybe I can show it to you guys. Let's see if I can share my screen. If you want to get real in the weeds here. Aha. There we go. All right. Part 89 of the Code of Federal Regulations. Just getting into some fun stuff here. So if you want to really dive into remote ID and see everything, here it is. Now, if you were smart, you would take this, you'd copy and paste it into ChatGPT. Actually, this is probably kind of long, and say, what does this mean? But it talks about required information for the broadcast modules. A lot of this is for manufacturers. So right now, what you have to do, or the manufacturers have to do, is as of a certain date, manufacturers started having to make their drones remote ID compliant. So they had to have a remote ID broadcasting module built into it. So any of the new drones you're buying now are going to have remote ID automatically built in. So really, you don't have to do anything to your drone to be compliant. It should be compliant already. And there's a list of drones out there. I can put them in the chat, maybe. See if I can do it here. So anything with a 3 in it or higher, as far as DJI goes. So like the Mini 3, the Mavic 3 Classic, Mavic 3 Cine, Mavic 3 Thermal Enterprise, the Avata, the Air 2S, Mini 3 Pro. All of those have built-in remote ID capabilities, and some of those just require a software or firmware update in order to make it active. There are other options. So if you have an older drone that doesn't have remote ID, like I got my I got a Mavic Air 2 right here. I don't have the battery in it right now. So this one is going to have some type of remote ID add-on put into it, I believe. I'll have to look and see on the list. I know it looks like the Air 2S can have it, but I'm not sure about the original Air 2. So there are some add-ons, especially if you have like an FPV drone, you're building those yourself. It's not like it's going to come built in. So there are manufacturers that are making these remote ID broadcast modules that you can just solder in to your FPV drone. Sometimes there's a separate app so that you can be compliant. So the ways can be compliant are fly remote ID drone that already has it in there. That is a newer one that's been manufactured. Put this module on your drone. And then the third option is there are going to be areas like recreational flying fields and some other places like that where the FAA has said you don't need a remote ID because this is like a designated area where you can fly drones. Um, let me see if I can find it. And so they have like a little graphic. Yeah, it's called the FAA recognized identification area. Let me share my screen here so you can see. But so you don't have to have them in here, but this is like really the only time you can fly without remote ID. So it's like a FRIA is what they call them. They can be flown without it. Both the drone and the pilot have to be within the boundaries. You must be able to see the drone at all time, right? And so they have a location of all the approved FRIAs here. It's interesting. Let's check that out. Ooh, welcome to the FAA's UAS data delivery. So you could explore through here and try to see the FRIA stuff. So how to apply for a FRIA. So if you want to open up a new one, let's say you have a place in your community where you guys fly drones, you can apply for one through Drone Zone. I'm actually not. I'm curious how this works. Add a service. So it walks you through it there. Application cannot provide an estimated timeline, aka you're going to be waiting a while. So you can see stuff on applications here if you want to get guidance on how to actually the FAA is pretty good about providing documentation on things. So here's an advisory circular on how to apply to become for a FRIA and what they look for, eligibility, what information to provide. So usually pretty good about, it's just, you got to be willing to read through a lot of stuff. Okay. So go back here to where we were. Sorry, I didn't mean to bump you off. So that's it. And then they have all their stuff on remote ID. And so you can go here and find out a ton of stuff on remote ID. So here's their executive summary on it. If you want to look. So this is the standard remote ID unmanned aircraft. So this is one that's like directly from the drone, like we were talking about. Unmanned aircraft with the remote ID broadcast module. So this is like if you have an older drone, or let's say you fly FPV, right? And you need to put it on there. It shows you what is, it includes, you can see serial number, latitude, longitude, altitude, and velocity. That's it. And then remotely identifying a broadcast module. Yeah, so it's like Wi-Fi or Bluetooth technology. And then, or that you can fly in the FRIA, right? Looks like they're valid for 4 years. Pretty cool. So, so that's a little bit on the rules. Now, what it is for, so Brian, sorry, I'm just seeing your question. From what I've seen, the Air 2S does have the capability. Let me double check. DJI. Yeah, I have to double check. It's looking like some of the forums are saying you do. Here's actually a article from Drone DJ. Hey, updated July 2023. Let's take a look at this. Like I said, this is going to be pretty informal. This is just going to be me chatting with you guys, diving into some topics. All right. So according to Drone DJ, they're pretty popular drone news website. They have this list here: drones with remote ID. Looks like Air 2S. So yeah, looks like it. Not this one. The Mavic 3, yeah, all those Mini 3, Mini 3 Pro, Enterprise Thermal, Matrice 30. At least these are the DJI drones that are available. So that might be a good resource for you. Graybeard. So I would say if you have a remote ID enabled drone and it's turned on and you're following the broadcast rules, as in it's being broadcast, then no, you wouldn't. I mean, again, I can't say anything for certain. I think this is only to help. The only immediate use I can see is like helping with safety at like large events or people flying drones in areas they shouldn't be flying them in. I can see eventually some technology like this being used to help with that AAM, right? The advanced air mobility and unmanned traffic management, so that, you know, there's a system of knowing where all the drones are and where they're going. Just like right now, if you're familiar with the FAA and how they do IFR flights, so instrument flight rules. Whenever you fly an airliner, right, they have an IFR flight plan. They say to the FAA, I'm flying from Boston to Tampa. Here's my exact flight plan. Here's what I'm doing. They'll take off, and an air traffic controller will say, all right, cool, Boeing 737, fly to this altitude on this heading and do this. And they are directing all the airplanes in the air to make sure that they're not going to hit each other, right? And those aircraft have to follow those rules from the FAA. Exactly. That's okay, cool, I'm flying to this. And if they want to deviate, they have to say, hey, there's some reason I can't do that. Can I do this? And so they'll vector you, they'll point you in different directions. And that's how they make sure none of those planes hit each other. If you're flying under VFR or visual flight rules, the pilot is responsible for not hitting anything. They're looking outside, making sure they're not going to hit any aircraft. They're navigating themselves. So it's a little bit different like that. We need something in drones where we can have sort of that IFR capability to where we can see where all the drones are going and have some type of coordination system to where the drones aren't going to hit each other. Because right now, we're just all flying them manually with our hands. But imagine a world where UPS, FedEx, Amazon, DHL, United Postal Service are all delivering packages with drones. Then on top of that, Target and Walmart are trying to do local deliveries in the air with drones. And then on top of that, you got some rich people who have drone taxis, or, you know, whatever, maybe it'll become cheap enough one day. And those are zipping people around, and you're cramming all this in below 500 feet, right? So maybe they take it up above 500 feet eventually, or maybe some people go, you know, maybe for package deliveries, they're going to go kind of up into more of the manned aircraft space. And then maybe come down when it comes closer to the delivery area. I don't know. But you can imagine that's a lot of congestion in a low altitude area. And I mean, just think about it. That's a lot of drones buzzing around. So how do you make sure, A, no, those drones are going to hit each other, B, that doesn't become a nightmare, just being outside, hearing all the time. People will get annoyed with that. One thing I thought that was cool that Zipline did, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Zipline. They do a lot of drone deliveries overseas. But their newest kind of thing is they stay at 400 feet. Mark Rober did a video on this. They stay at 400 feet, and they have this like separate unit that comes down on like a tether. And let's see if I can find it. Yeah, you should watch this if you get a chance. Right now it's me. It comes down on a tether and can position itself pretty quickly. Let me see if I can find a good picture of it. All right, let me share this screen. I wonder if it'll let me share the screen since this is a YouTube video. Probably not. We'll see. Oh, yeah, you can see it. Okay, cool. So, like right there, see this little guy? It, well, let's go back, see if we can find it again. Like it comes down on a tether and can position itself to land on your front porch. And so it's quiet because when the drone is way up high, you really don't hear much of the propellers. And then as well, this is their other drone delivery stuff. Is he going to show me here?
Also imagine how this could work with a distribution center or a large retail store. More than 90% of people in the US live within 10 miles of a large retail store, which could quietly touch down
like
in your...
So the drone stays up high. It drops this little pod down that's got a bunch of fans on it.
Driveway. So you hop in, or they put you in on the ground, then it reels you in, so you can glide above roads and traffic straight to your destination, only to be dropped off safely in the same manner.
So that's pretty cool.
So finally, I just want to wrap up.
So it doesn't bother people and doesn't make a ton of noise. Yeah, here's Zipline's website. Looks like they've changed their branding a little bit. Yeah, so this little guy, it's got little fans and rotors in here that can kind of move itself around to position it to where it's going to, land in a specific spot. So anyways, all that to say, remote ID, I think, is a step for them to try to get in that direction. but people are just worried about privacy. So like, it's going to be interesting to see how, I guess, how they enforce it. I don't know. I haven't really seen a whole lot about, if you don't do this, here are the penalties, here are the consequences. With Part 107, they threw out all these big numbers. A couple people did get in trouble. They got like prosecuted. There was that one guy in Philadelphia who had to pay a ton of money, but he broke like a ton of rules. And people definitely get cracked down on for flying in like national parks and stuff. I've seen YouTubers, they get fines mailed to them for flying in national parks. So that's interesting. I'm curious to see how it goes with remote ID. I imagine that the FAA will have some type of grace period where they're not going to be like cracking down on everyone right on September 16th or whatever it is. And like, all right, we're out to get you. I mean, the FAA, from what I know at the FAA, I mean, I know several people there, not like super buddy with them or everything, but we've had several meetings with them. I mean, they're good people. They're kind. They're nice. I don't view them as trying to be out to get anyone, right? Their whole purpose is safety of the national airspace. So they're just trying to make it to where everything's safe, right? And so if no one follows the rules, it could potentially not be safe. So the only way they could do that is cracking down on the rules. Sweet. What's up, Kevin? All right, Kevin was at the FAA Drone Symposium, Maryland drone guy, this week in Baltimore, and he says they claim they're not going to enforce it too much unless you do something stupid. Yeah, I mean, that's what I imagine. Same thing for like the trust, right? If you're a recreational flyer, technically you're supposed to get this trust exam. And so if you get this trust exam, you have a certificate to fly recreationally. And if you don't do it, they're kind of unclear as to what the exact consequences are. So I think that's a little bit of a weakness. I wish the FAA had a little bit more clarity on, hey, if you don't comply with this, here are the negative consequences. Because if it's not clear to people are just like, well, whatever, I'm just gonna do whatever I want, then who cares? But then they do get caught and they're like, oh wait, there's fines. Like, it's just, to me, it's never been incredibly clear as to what happens if you don't follow some rule, right? So if you're like, all right, David, cool, what do I do? How do I be compliant? How to be compliant? If I have an older drone, which it seems like the Mavic Air 2 is not a naturally compliant drone, how do you make it compliant? I was looking around. The options are a little scarce at the moment. There was one that we saw. Technically, these things have to be like approved by the FAA. There was one called Drone Tag. Let's see if I can pull it up for you here. This is one we found as we were researching. Share screen, Drone Tag. So this one's been approved. It's .cz. I don't know if that means they're from another country or not. Let's take a look down here. I don't know. It doesn't say. I saw one that was from Switzerland. There's a lot of drone stuff that comes out of Switzerland, but then it was back ordered and you had to know how to like integrate it into your system, like on your own, like soldering it in. I'm like, oh my goodness. This looks like something that would be a little bit more simple. So we'll check this out. I don't know. Again, I'm just kind of looking at this for about the first time. So the beacon, right, is bare minimum for direct. Yeah. So like you'd have to put this on your drone to broadcast it, right? Add-on device attachable to any drone. Interesting. So let's take a look. I don't know how much they are. $200. Yeah, like euros. So it's some. I like how they're making these for U.S. compliance. Maybe the EU has something similar. So $200 option for an add-on. Seems like a lot, especially if your drone isn't worth much. Yeah, see, they're all back ordered. Everything I've seen is back ordered. I saw another one that was back ordered as well. Like if you search for, yeah, there we go. How much are these bad boys? Yeah, $200. Like if you search for remote ID broadcast modules for sale, and I found a couple. I saw this one. This is the first one that comes up. It's like you have to integrate this yourself, like solder it in. Like this is good for maybe like your FPV stuff, but you have to know how to like integrate this into your actual like system. It didn't see. And then if you go to their website, they're sold out anyways. Like look, back ordered, right? And it's an FPV module. So it's like, all right, well, I guess that's a no. And then, I looked at a couple other ones. There just doesn't seem to be. There's this one, but then if you look at this, it's really only for like a certain type of drone. Yeah, see, I looked at this one and it says, oh, it's only for these specific drones. I was like, all right, well, it's not helpful. So there's really not a lot of options, it seems, at this point. Let's check out this guy. So I wonder if the FAA will be a little bit more lenient on some of this stuff. Has a Jeep battery, yeah. So it's like, how do you? I guess you could plug this in for just like a USB-C type of thing, but like, where does this even go on your drone? Do you strap it on the top or something, or how does this work? Oh my gosh. Its own GPS. Yeah, so maybe this one works. 3M. So basically, just screw it or tape it on. All right. Well, maybe this one works. I wonder if it's in stock. Oh, available for pre-order. Yeah. So I'm sure as this rule comes out, we'll see a lot more. We'll see a lot more of these coming on the market for sale. But like as of right now, I don't know. I don't think you'd get in. I'm gonna say this unofficially, but I don't think you'd get in trouble waiting a little bit past the deadline if you have an older drone, because even if you wanted to be compliant, you can't even order any of these things right now. I think the drone tag, did that say it was on back order? Yeah, everything is on back order. So it's like, even if the FAA was like, hey, you're flying without remote ID, you're gonna be like, there's literally not an option for me to order one right now. Everything's either back ordered or something, So I just don't see that as being an issue right at the kind of September enforcement date. And then if you have a newer drone, you don't have to worry about it. You can just turn it on. So just on a functional level, that's what we're working with. We're having a live event in Lakeland in September, like September 22nd, 23rd, which I was trying to talk Kevin Olson into coming down. I think he's going to try to come, and I want him to be a workshop instructor at it. So you guys need to encourage him. Kevin, get your butt down there and be a workshop instructor. But at that, it's going to be past the remote ID deadline. So we were talking about, that's what I heard from an attorney. So Kevin said this. That's what I heard from an attorney. The last drone conference I went to, this woman literally wrote a book called Drone Law, and it was about drone laws. And she knows a ton about it. And she's like, yeah, I just can't see them enforcing this on the exact date. They bumped the deadline back for manufacturers because the manufacturers couldn't get everything together because they didn't get what they needed from the FAA, apparently. So they pushed that back. So she said the date was going to get pushed back. But here we are, a month away. I guess we'll see. But we have a live event where the whole premise of the live event was like, hey, let's all come together, like people from our Drone Launch Connect community. Let's all come together and fly drones together. Let's learn together, this kind of stuff. And I was talking to Dusty, our community manager, today, and he's like, yeah, technically it's going to be past the remote ID deadline. And he was going to do an FPV session where we shows people how to solder, we do some simulator stuff, and then we go out there and we actually go fly FPV drones. And he's like, I should probably have like remote ID on my drone. We were kind of like, I'm sure it'd be fine either way, but we're like a drone training school. We don't want to be like flying around, not compliant. Sets a bad example, not a good look. So we were talking about that, and he's like, oh yeah, well, I'll try to get one, but he couldn't like find one to go get put on his drone. So we'll see what we can do between that. But sounds like our inside source, Kevin, is saying that that it might get delayed. So that's some of the main stuff that I have for remote ID. I just wanted to get the convo going, get people up to speed. It really is those 3 ways to be compliant. It's not advertising your specific name or your address. Once the date comes out and once these remote ID modules become available, I'll probably wait until our next, like once I get it, the next live I have, I'll probably go through putting it on this Mavic, the Mavic Air 2 bad boy, so you can check that out, see what that's like. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how everything unfolds. When you're the FAA, people love to hate on you because you're making rules, and people don't like rules. Now they're not always the fastest at regulation or whatever, but what can you do? I think a bigger problem, maybe not problem is not the right word, but a bigger concern is them trying to ban all DJI drones because they're saying that it's all being shipped to China, which I can understand not using them for government, but not letting individual operators use DJI drones, or not letting them being imported and sold in the US is kind of crazy. So I hope that doesn't happen. That's not necessarily the purpose of today's chat. But I don't think it's funny. Anytime we post about something on our Instagram or somewhere else about remote ID, people just they don't go nuts, but like everybody's commenting like, oh, they're taking away our freedoms and blah blah blah. I do think it's obviously they're poking into your privacy a little bit, but it's like how do you balance privacy and safety? Yeah, so I don't know. And I guess people do have a good point. Some people would say, well, criminals aren't going to follow the remote ID law, so what's it going to do anyways? If it only has a law enforcement purpose, what's the point of having remote ID, right? I guess if the criminal buys a new drone, it's already got remote ID on it. I'm not sure if there's a way to turn it off. I guess we'd have to figure that out. So maybe they wouldn't have an option, but if they did their own drone, like building their own drone from scratch, obviously they're not going to put a remote ID broadcast module on it. So how effective is it going to be? I don't know. Are they going to be able to use it for all the UTM stuff and advanced air mobility? Are they going to be able to like take advantage of it for those purposes, like an ADS-B transponder? I guess it remains to be seen. So we can do some more updates on that later, but that's the word that I have right now. All right. I was going to do a segment. So I have this cup here from Mission Barbecue, sweet tea. I'm trying to drink less sweet tea. I don't know. Some of you may know I had heart surgery in February 1st. You kind of see a little remnants of the scar right there. Had heart surgery February 1st, went well. I didn't have anything wrong with my heart from a health perspective. It was more genetic perspective. I found out that I got like a family history of this heart problem. I knew about that already, but then I found out through some other thing, I had like an infection on my leg, put me in the hospital randomly. They thought the infection might have spread to my heart. So they're like, hey, let's do this thing called a TEE to see if you have an infection on your heart. I'm not sure if any of you guys have had a TEE before, but it is terrible. It stands for transesophageal echo. Basically, they stick a tube down your esophagus, down your throat, and they look at your heart because if they can get inside your rib cage, it's a lot easier for them to look at your heart. They told me, oh, you'll be out. You'll be knocked out. Like, no worries. You won't feel a thing. Well, that's not true at all. I was like loopy, but I was like very lucid. And so they started shoving this thing down my throat. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Anyways, they gave me more medicine, knocked me out. But through that, they found out you have this thing called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Basically, I just have like extra heart muscle that blocks some of the blood flow. Long story short, went to Cleveland Clinic for like 2 weeks. They did open heart surgery. They cut out all the extra heart muscle. My heart works great now. They said, oh, you have no blockage in your arteries. That wasn't the problem. Normally people have heart surgery. It's because they're having like bypass surgery. They get clogged arteries and then they have to reroute the arteries to get your heart to work fine. That was not my problem. They said your arteries are clean as a whistle, which I was bragging to my wife about because she always gives me crap about eating too much Chick-fil-A. But I was confirmed by the doctors, arteries crystal clear. Regardless, trying to make better health choices. So previously I would get lots of sweet tea. This is also sweet tea. I'm failing today. But on future segments, we're going to try different drinks that are not sweet tea. We're going to call it the sweet tea swap. So today I'm giving in drinking sweet tea. And in future, we'll try different low to no calorie beverages that are not sweet tea that I can sip on during this time here together. But today I'm going to enjoy my sweet tea. One last time. Delicious. And we'll see. If you guys have some drink recommendations for next time. There's a guy on Al Spina. I don't know if he's on here. Probably not. But he is one of our, he's been a student of a couple of our courses, and he actually came to a dinner that we hosted in Denver because he lives out in that area. Well, I found out that his full-time job, he works for 5 Hour Energy, and apparently, Al, I'm sorry if this is not public knowledge. I think it is. They're going to make like a full-size drink, like a full-size like soda. And so he's like the one launching that soda, I guess, or in a certain region. It's a pretty good job pay-wise. I think he's doing all right. But I just couldn't imagine a 5 Hour Energy, like full-on energy drink beverage. Right now, I go to cardiac rehab 3 times a week. Basically, you just run on treadmills and bikes and rowers and do that kind of stuff. And they just slowly ramp you up and you wear this like heart monitor. So they watch you, make sure you're good. But anytime I drink, I'll drink cold brew coffee, like or black coffee or whatever, I'll drink that in the morning. Sometimes I'll have like 2 of them, and I won't drink any water, and I'll get in there, and they're like, I'll do simple exercise, and my heart rate's super high, and they're like, "Did you, like, chug a bunch of coffee?" And they can see it. I'm like, "Oh, crap." So I've been a little bit, shunned for that. So doing better, drinking more water. I've been better on that thing. Maybe just 1 coffee in the morning. Don't get your heart rate too high unnecessarily, right? Um, Matt Burns. I'm from Florida, man. I'm about 45 minutes outside of Tampa. Um, yeah, even when I lived in New Hampshire, I lived in New Hampshire when I was a kid for a little while. I would make my own sweet tea. So it's good, but it's tons of sugar, not good for you. And it's got caffeine in it, which also makes your heart rate high. Um, so that will be my segment. I'm going to use that segment to break up. I'll try to do some industry news updates, talk about some regulation, talk about some recent things that are happening in the drone industry. And then we'll go into the sweet tea swap minute. We'll test out a beverage. And then we'll move on to another segment. I thought what might be interesting to talk about is I'm about to start the master's program at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in their what is it called now? Uncrewed and Autonomous Systems master's program. So I went to flight school for a year. Sorry, I cannot type and do this at the same time. I was going to show you the degree. There it is. I went to Florida Tech for flight school when I was in undergrad, and oh boy, that is not it. And I did that for a year, and that was good. Except I did not like flying, being a pilot, because I got claustrophobic. And there it is. I got claustrophobic. I kept thinking I was going to crash. Just didn't like it. Too much stress. I enjoyed flying when I wasn't stressed out, but I couldn't do the day-to-day of it when I was 17, 18 years old. Just did not have the mental maturity or risk tolerance for it at the time. So switched to accounting and finance, did that, ended up working in accounting stuff for a while, then got back into drones in 2015. So I had a little bit of formal aviation training. I did get my pilot's license or whatever, private pilot certificate. And before I started drone launch, I went and got my FAA advanced ground instructor certificate. So I learned a ton about aviation and the rules and all that stuff. And so I got certified to do all that, even though I don't really love flying airplanes. It's a little bit of a contradiction. But all my kind of formal academic training had been in accounting, finance. I got my CPA license. I got my certified fraud examiner certificate. I got my certified in financial forensics. Like I kept doing more stuff over there because that's what I was doing at the time. So now that I'm running a drone company, an education company, I'm like, I want to go back and dive deeper into the world of like the technical part of drones. I'm very exposed all the time to the practical applications of drones and how people are using them in different industries and more of the kind of prosumer drones. Like I've flown a bunch of those, anywhere from the 500 to 30K range drones, right? But I want to understand where drones are going 10 years from now, so I know what jobs are going to be created 5-10 years from now, so that at Drone Launch Academy we can figure out what training to offer, certifications, pathways, help people get jobs in the drone industry or be trained and qualified for different positions in the drone industry, even beyond just piloting a drone. We want to there's going to be drone maintenance techs. There's going to be people working on the software. There's going to be a whole slew of teams in different capacities working on the drones, even beyond just the person behind the sticks. I think software is going to be more important. So I wanted to dive in, make sure I knew all about the systems, even like the really large platforms, right? Like how does a $200,000 drone platform work? What are the sensors like? What are the communications like? How does the thing work from top to bottom? So I was looking around, and this program, Embry-Riddle, is like the biggest aeronautical university in the country. I actually got in there when I was in undergrad, but I didn't go because they didn't give me as much scholarship money as Florida Tech did. But it's only like 2.5 hours from my house, but I'm doing it. It's all online. So I'm doing this program. I start on Monday, actually. So today's Thursday. So it's Masters in Uncrewed and Autonomous Systems. You can pick. So if you look here, you can pick 2 concentrations. So you go application of uncrewed systems, current issues, legal, regulatory, operations and configurations, interoperability and control, cybersecurity. And then you pick a specialization. One of them is small uncrewed aircraft operations, which this one is like basically getting your Part 107 license. And so I was like, I already know a lot about like this stuff. Maybe not as much on advanced fixed wing, but I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna get as much out of that. So I kind of went the more technical route. So like engineering. So I'm doing this one. So this is like robotics and control, remote sensing data analysis, system requirements, systems engineering. So I'm going this route because that's what I want to learn how to do because that's what I know the least about, right? I'm not an engineer. So I'm going for that. Should take about 2 years. So I thought what would be cool is maybe in another segment each week, I'll fill you guys in on what we're going through in this master's program, give you maybe a taste of the technical side of drones, maybe talk about sensors or some kind of nitty gritty details of what we're working on there, what that's like. Hopefully the program's good. It could be terrible. I don't know. We'll see. Find out. So first class starts on Monday, but I'll take a little time after our sweet tea swap minute to talk about that a little bit. So that's what we'll do. And then I'd love to also have other people on here. So if there's an expert we want to chat with or talk to, or just someone we want to get their input on a certain thing, I can bring people on here. So because this is StreamYard, so I think I can, like, for instance, I don't know if you're still on here, Kevin, but I think I could get. No, I don't think so. I think I have to send them a link actually. But I could get other guests on here. I can have, I think, 10 people on here at once. So it'd be fun to get other people on, chat with them, get their thoughts, go through different, things with them, get their experience. If you guys are curious, Drone to 1K season 6 is underway. I recorded another episode today. I was super pumped. Recorded it with Brian Coster of South Bay Drone Services. Brian, I've known him since 2020. He's been doing a lot of stuff. It's awesome. He was doing a ton of real estate, and then he transitioned to do all like photogrammetry mapping work for construction companies. Also, just recently started doing stuff for attorneys, doing like not crime scene, but like incident scene reconstruction, and using mapping and photogrammetry to help prove different things in court. Really interesting. So I'm really excited to have that come out. And I got 5 more episodes to record next week. That'll put us at 8 total. So once I get to 10, we can start releasing them. So I'm assuming in August, I'll get all 10 recorded. Hopefully we can start releasing them in September. So if you guys know of anyone that would be good to have on the Drone to 1K podcast, pumped to have that coming back out. All right. Brian. Oh yeah, they have a Prescott, Arizona campus. They have a Daytona Beach campus. And then they have their worldwide campus. This is Embry-Riddle. So I'm going for the worldwide campus. I thought I didn't want to drive 2.5 hours to go to class multiple times a week. I've got 5 kids now. My youngest is my first girl. She's 2.5 weeks old. She'll be 3 weeks old on Saturday, and we have 4 boys ages 9 and under. And so I think my wife would murder me if I was driving off to Daytona Beach 3 times a week. So yeah. Matt, what kind of bachelor's degree do you need as a prerequisite? You actually don't need any real type of specific bachelor's degree. I was surprised at how, I don't want to say this badly, how little you needed to get in there for this one. So I originally applied for the Uncrewed and Autonomous Systems Engineering program. They have one that's literally like an engineering version where it's all about like aircraft design and function, where you're like building them. I talked to somebody else who's in that program, actually, a guy, he works for UPS. He's doing designing aircraft for them for drone delivery. So I talked with him. He said it's cool. I applied for that one and then told me, oh, you don't have an engineering undergrad degree, so you actually don't qualify for this. And I was like, oh, bummer. So I couldn't do that one. So I switched to this one. And then luckily this year, just this year, they changed the concentration of the program around to provide like a more technical track. Because before it was kind of weird. It was like, you could pick safety, you could pick aircraft maintenance, you could pick a bunch of different things. And I was like, but now they have this more like engineering-ish technical track that I like. I think it's going to be good. So I have a bachelor's degree in accounting and finance, and they thought that was good enough. I asked them, hey, do you need my FAA certificates? Like I have all these. I was like, I have all these, advanced ground instructor, blah, blah, blah. They're like, yeah, we don't care about any of that. I was like, oh, okay, never mind. But I still got in. So, yeah. What's up, Chad? Yeah, thanks for coming by, man. You are starting school this fall. Yes. Well, online. So I'll fill you guys in on how that's going. First class starts Monday. They were nice enough to give me a $1,000 scholarship. So each class is like $2,400, and which is a lot. $2,400. I got $1,000 scholarship. Don't know what for. They're just like new student scholarship. So my first class, I'm like $1,400. I'm paying for it out of pocket. So they last 9 weeks. Each class is 9 weeks. And if you do it one class at a time continuously, it'll take like 2 years. So roughly all in, the program's like 20 to 25 grand over 2 years. So it's a lot, but I want to, if I'm building drone launch for the future and want to make it a sustainable education platform that's going to help people in the drone industry long term, I want to make sure that I know everything I can know about unmanned aircraft, the industry, where it's headed, what people need to know, how they can. And the most important thing is how you guys can capitalize on your own knowledge, build your own skills so that you're marketable, whether or not you're trying to do, do your own business. I need more sweet tea. Hold on. Whether you're trying to do your own business or you want a full-time job in drones, or you want to be a drone program manager, or you want to be a maintenance tech, or you want to help manage the software or fleets or whatever, there's going to be a bunch of different jobs. People that are involved in the operations that are going to need about safety, a lot of fun stuff like that. So I'm excited to learn about it. Drones definitely aren't going anywhere. So it's just going to shift around what is needed. It's not going to be like, oh, they're not going to need, everything is going to be automated and it's obsolete now. It's not going to be like, you're always going to need people in the system. You just, what roles are they going to be playing? People are always afraid of, autonomy eliminating the need for a pilot, let's say. And it might eliminate the need for the ratio of pilots to aircraft, but somebody's going to need to be monitoring the aircraft and occasionally take over an aircraft that is in a certain situation or has an alert, right? So there's going to be people that need to know how to work those systems to operate those aircraft. Somebody's going to need to know how to design and build the aircraft. Somebody's going to need to know how to do maintenance on it. They're going to need to know all about batteries and avionics and aeronautics and all that fun stuff. There's going to be electronics, tons of electronics on it. So you need electrical engineers. There's a whole bunch of stuff, right, that the drone industry is going to open up. I was reading this book, and it was talking about, it was an older book. It was written, I think, in the 50s or 60s. And it was talking about when like the sewing machines came out, people were freaking out because they're like, oh my gosh, it's going to put all these seamstresses out of work. And with technology, it always appears that at first it's going to eliminate a bunch of jobs, but people have no idea in their mind. They haven't even seen all of the jobs it will open up, or new jobs that will become jobs because of a certain technology. Like if you think of a world without computers, yeah, a lot of people would have jobs doing manual labor, but like computers have enabled completely new industries that we never even thought were possible. And it allows everybody to, if you're willing to put in some work and upskill your knowledge. Wow. Something's really bugging my throat. If you're willing to put in some work and upscale your knowledge, there's always going to be opportunity. I even thought about, let's say, because I was an accountant and I'm in accounting. Think back to when computers came out and like accounting software was there. I just read a book called Titan. It's about John D. Rockefeller. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. Super rich guy from the early 1900s. I think he was the richest person of all time if you adjust for inflation. But he basically started all the major oil companies that you see today because they got split up. But he started off as like a bookkeeper and literally keeping books by hand. So all the transactions that happened, every little expenditure or whatever, they literally kept all of the expenses by hand and assets and liabilities. And if they spent something or changed something, they kept all these records by hand. So there were literally, someone's whole job was just to keep the records by hand. Well, then think about, now a computer comes out and QuickBooks comes out, or any of these accounting softwares come out. Now it's like, oh, it can happen automatically. Oh, that's cool. So you think, oh, now everybody's going to lose their job. No, it's just that the people with the knowledge of how accounting and bookkeeping works, now they can do it at a lot bigger scale, right? Someone who used to only be able to, a company who needed, sure, maybe they needed 10 people before, and now they need 2 people because computers allow them to do things at more scale. Well, those other 8 people go on and learn how to actually use that system. If they're willing to go learn how to use the system and say, oh, now I can use the system to do a whole lot more, they make themselves more productive to other employers and they can do other things. So you just have to be willing to invest and learn the technology. So like stuff coming out with AI right now, you should all be messing around with ChatGPT, looking at what are large language models, how do they work, what is AI, what is machine learning. When you start looking into it, it's not like all that crazy complicated. Just watch some YouTube videos. You can see it, mess around with ChatGPT. It can make your life so much easier, so much faster. And if you kind of just always keep your toes in the water of technology, you're playing with drones as they come out, you're looking at software, you're familiar with how software applications work. A lot of these software applications are the same, right? Especially the ones that do photogrammetry or flight automation, right? There's so many different pieces of software to like program your drone and have it fly around. But if you look at them, they all kind of do similar things. And as you use different ones, you can see, oh, they're kind of operating the drone in this way, and you understand how to program it. Or if you look at these photogrammetry software, sometimes they put it in the cloud, sometimes they're processing it locally on the computer. But once you learn how one software works, they'll kind of work in a similar way. And the more you can do with it and you explore with it, the more valuable you make yourself to an employer or business or whatever it is. So that's my little spiel about technology, keeping up with it. I don't think people need to be afraid of technology. You only need to be afraid of technology if you love how things are right now and you don't want anything to change ever and you just like your little bubble, right? But if you're someone who likes to learn and willing to learn, technology like AI, drones, automation, it's just going to give you even more opportunity if you understand how to work the systems, right? Same thing with like AutoCAD and drafters. People used to like hand draw all these architectural plans. Well, you need that same knowledge, but now you can apply that to a computer system and you can do it a lot faster or a lot better or in a lot more resolution. It just amplifies the amount of things that you're able to do. So if you're the one who knows how to use that technology, you still need somebody who understands that field, who understands the principles, who understands the rules. They're just using the technology as a tool to be able to do that. So those are my thoughts. All right. We're getting close to an hour here. Hey, thanks everybody who showed up to this. Appreciate it. I did it kind of unannounced. I think I only talked about it on my Instagram. I was kind of counting on no one to come because I wanted to get the practice out, see what it was like to just do a casual 1 hour live, and hang out with you all, get to know people a little bit better, talk about drones, share what I'm learning, see what everybody else is up to, hopefully kind of add some helpful information to your life and have a good time with everybody. Julio, what's up? How's it going? But yeah, so that's it. If you guys have more questions, you can always feel free to throw them in the comments, or if you want me to talk about something on my next live, throw them in the comments of this. It'll be a YouTube video down there, or just email me, david@dronelaunchacademy.com. My assistant, Daria, is in my email inbox. She'll help me get back to you. More sweet tea. But the biggest thing I need help with is what to name this 1 hour time slot every week. So if you guys have any recommendations, I'm all ears. ChatGPT, while I love it for many things, I thought its recommendations were all trash. So I'm counting on you all. All right, we're gonna end a minute and a half early. Thank you so much. Hope to see you all. Hey, and real quick plug, I'd love to meet you in person. Live event, September 22nd, 23rd. It is free for all Drone Launch Connect members. So either if you're an annual member, which I think is like $290 for an annual membership, you get access to like cheaper drones, tons of workshops, live Q&As with experts, a bunch of great stuff. Or if you're just a monthly member, it's like $29 a month. But if you've paid from September 2022 to August 2023, like you have 12 months that you've been a member, you can come for free too. We'll give you an access code. If you hate memberships of all types and you just want to come and get a ticket, it's more expensive because I wanted to incentivize people to actually become a member because I like the community. That's like $3.99 just to get a ticket. But come on down. We're going to have workshops. We're going to do, you can pick between FPV, cinematography and photography, and modeling, where we'll model stuff out, do some data acquisition, some processing. We'll kind of do drone flying together in the morning, and then we'll do processing or editing or whatever it is in the afternoon. We'll have dinner together. We'll hang out together. The biggest point of this live event is to connect with each other, because the best things that have happened to me in my business and life is when I've met other people at events and we work together and collaborate, and we're able to build things even bigger than we would be on our own. The very first time I ever went to a drone conference. I met the two guys who ended up collaborating with me on the Part 107 course. And 6-7 years later, it's still one of our main products. And that would have never happened if I wouldn't have just decided to go to this live event and show up and just go for it and meet some people, put myself out there. So that's the whole point of it. Just want to get people together. A ton of good stuff happens when you get people together. Even when we went to Denver, I hosted a dinner for 10 people, 8 guests, plus me and Dusty. And even just from that one dinner, people were getting together. There's a guy that these people are working together now. They're shadowing each other on opportunities. They're helping each other out in all these different ways, getting each other into their businesses. We had one guy on there that I met. I brought him in. He did a workshop for us. And just like anytime you can get with people that are in your industry, that are smart, that are willing to collaborate, good things happen. So that's why we're doing the event. Love for you to be there. Shoot me an email if you want to come and you don't know how. And we'll make it happen. We're trying to get at least 100 people there. I think our max is 200. So it's our first year ever doing it. I'm sure we'll have some kinks to work out, but I'm really looking forward to meeting everyone. All right. Actually did go an hour because I did that plug. My apologies. So I'll get off now. Until next Thursday. Adios. Thanks for coming.